A driver in China pulls out of a driveway, crosses 3 entire provinces, stops for coffee once, and still hasn't needed to plug in or refuel by the time the trip is over. That is real. It exists, and the car doing it starts at a price lower than most economy hatchbacks sold in the West. This isn't a concept car or a limited halo model. It's a mass-produced sedan already sitting in ordinary driveways by the hundreds of thousands. Every figure in this video comes from verified manufacturer. Disclosures, independent Chinese vehicle registration data, and specialist automotive press, because the gap between what's officially claimed and what's actually achievable matters here more than almost any other car story this year. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this specific sedan has automotive executives outside China quietly worried, and it's not really about the range number at all. Here's where the story actually starts, and it isn't with a single dramatic headline number, it's with a name most people outside China have never heard of, the BYD Qin LDMI, alongside its close sibling sold internationally as the Seal 6. Part of a hybrid lineup BYD has spent years quietly refining, while most of the world's automotive press was fixated entirely on pure electric vehicles. Here's the backstory that matters. BYD built its entire early reputation as a battery manufacturer long before it ever built a car, and that battery-first DNA shaped a completely different strategic bet than the one Tesla, Ford, and Volkswagen were all making at roughly the same time. Instead of racing straight to a fully electric future, BYD poured enormous engineering resources into perfecting the plug-in hybrid, a category most Western automakers had quietly treated as a temporary bridge technology, not a destination worth mastering. Here's the thing about that decision that's easy to miss from the outside. While competitors were burning enormous capital trying to solve pure EV range anxiety and charging infrastructure gaps, BYD instead asked a completely different question. What if the hybrid itself could be engineered good enough that the range anxiety problem simply stopped existing at all, without needing a single new charging station built anywhere? Here's the mechanism behind how BYD's engineers actually pulled that off. And it starts with the platform underneath this specific sedan, the 5th generation DM hybrid system, unveiled by BYD chairman Wang Chuanfu at a dedicated launch event in Xi'an, built around a combustion engine running a 16:1 compression ratio, an unusually high figure for a gasoline engine that's only survivable because the hybrid architecture surrounding it manages combustion timing and load with a level of precision a standalone gasoline engine could never achieve on its own. Here's what makes this specific engineering choice so significant. That same platform achieved an officially confirmed thermal efficiency of 46.06%, which, at the time of its announcement, stood as the highest thermal efficiency ever recorded for a mass-produced automotive engine anywhere on the planet. Meaning this sedan isn't running some watered-down, compromised version of hybrid technology. It's built around what was genuinely the most efficient gasoline-electric combustion system in the entire global auto industry at that moment. Here's the piece that ties the engine to the rest of the car. BYD paired that record-setting engine with a 7-in-1 powertrain controller, a single integrated unit managing the electric motor, the transmission, and the power electronics, together rather than running them as separate components, each losing a little efficiency at every connection point, specifically engineered to minimize how far electrical energy has to travel through the system before it actually reaches the wheels. Think about what that combination actually represents. A hybrid architecture that isn't treating the gasoline engine and the electric motor as two separate systems awkwardly bolted together, but as one deeply integrated machine, each component's inefficiencies engineered out one at a time. Here's where the actual range numbers behind this video's title come into play, and here's where the honest, unglamorous truth genuinely matters more than the headline. BYD's own official figures, tested under China's CLTC methodology, rate this platform's combined range, meaning a full tank of gasoline plus a fully charged battery used together, at up to 2,110 kilometers, alongside a remarkably low fuel consumption figure of just 2.9 liters per 100 kilometers once the battery is depleted and the car is running purely on the combustion engine. Here's the honest caveat worth addressing directly, because credibility matters far more than repeating a manufacturer's best-case marketing number. China's CLTC testing cycle has been repeatedly criticized by independent automotive reviewers and international outlets for producing notably optimistic range figures compared to real-world driving conditions, particularly at highway speeds, in cold weather, or with a heavier foot on the accelerator. The same category of criticism that's historically been leveled at Europe's older NEDC testing standard, before it was replaced by the more realistic WLTP methodology, specifically because NEDC numbers had become disconnected from what drivers actually experienced. Here's what that gap actually means in practice. Real-world combined range for this platform, based on independent testing and driver-reported figures under more demanding conditions, lands considerably closer to 1,600 kilometers, rather than BYD's laboratory optimal 2,100. Still a genuinely enormous number by any global standard, comparable to driving from Los Angeles to Denver and continuing on toward Chicago without a single stop at a gas station or charging cable, but a meaningfully more honest number than the one printed on the marketing materials. Read that again. Even after subtracting the gap between a laboratory test cycle and actual highway driving, this sedan is still covering a distance that would take most gasoline cars 2 or 3 separate fuel stops to match. Here's the number that should genuinely stop you, and it isn't the range at all. It's the price tag sitting underneath all of this engineering. Depending on trim and battery size, versions of this platform across BYD's Chin and Seal lineup start as low as roughly $11,400 and climb only into the high teens of thousands for the most fully equipped variants, positioning a car with record-setting thermal efficiency and a genuinely enormous real-world range directly against economy hatchbacks that offer none of that engineering sophistication. Think about what that pricing decision actually represents, strategically. BYD didn't build this technology to sell a low-volume halo model that impresses journalists at an auto show and then quietly disappears. It engineered its most advanced hybrid powertrain specifically to sell inside its highest volume, most mainstream vehicle lineup, the exact opposite of how most legacy automakers have historically rolled out breakthrough technology. Here's what that inversion means for the rest of the industry. Western and Japanese automakers have traditionally treated genuinely cutting-edge powertrain technology as something you charge a premium for, debuting it in a flagship model before slowly trickling it down to cheaper trims over several years. BYD, instead, put its most efficient, most advanced hybrid system directly into one of its cheapest, highest volume nameplates from day one, treating efficiency breakthroughs as something to spread as widely as possible immediately, rather than something to ration out for margin. Before going any further into what this specific sedan actually threatens, it's worth pulling back and understanding the sales data underneath it, because a record-setting engine attached to a car nobody buys would not be much of a warning to anyone. According to sales data tracked across BYD's Chin lineup, this nameplate has consistently ranked among the company's best-selling models, with monthly sales figures for the broader Chin series running into the tens of thousands of units in a single month, meaning this isn't a boutique engineering showcase quietly sitting in a handful of showrooms. It's one of the actual best-selling car families in the world's largest automotive market. Here's the thing that makes that sales volume land differently once you sit with it. China's plug-in hybrid segment as a whole has grown dramatically in recent years, at a moment when several Western markets have seen their own EV sales growth noticeably stall or slow, partly due to charging infrastructure gaps and partly due to persistent consumer range anxiety. Exactly the anxiety BYD's hybrid strategy was specifically engineered to sidestep entirely rather than wait for infrastructure to eventually catch up. This is not a single clever engineering team building one impressive halo car. This is a mass-market sales machine, moving tens of thousands of genuinely advanced hybrid vehicles every single month. At price points, most Western automakers can't currently match with anything close to this level of engineering sophistication. And once you see the sales volume behind the spec sheet, the actual warning buried inside this video's title stops being about one car's range number and starts looking like something considerably bigger. Here's what the warning actually is, and it isn't that electric vehicles are dead or that hybrids have somehow won some permanent technological argument. It's that an entire major global automaker built its business around solving the exact anxiety that's currently slowing EV adoption in plenty of Western markets, and it solved that anxiety at a price point competitors can't easily match, using engineering most of the rest of the industry hasn't caught up to yet. Think about what that combination actually does to a Western or Japanese automaker's product roadmap. If a customer can buy a sedan that drives like an EV around town on battery power for the vast majority of daily errands, but never has to plan around a charging network, never has to worry about winter range loss stranding them on a highway, and never pays anywhere close to a premium for any of that capability, the traditional argument for waiting on a pure EV or paying a steep premium for one starts to look considerably weaker. Here's the honest complication worth sitting with here, because a fair warning has to acknowledge its own limits. This specific vehicle currently exists almost entirely inside the Chinese domestic market, and a handful of overseas markets BYD has expanded into. And it faces real, serious headwinds trying to reach markets like the United States, where tariffs, specifically targeting Chinese-made EVs and hybrids, have made vehicles like this one commercially unavailable at anything close to their domestic Chinese pricing, regardless of how advanced the underlying engineering actually is. Here's why that trade barrier doesn't make the warning disappear, though. Tariffs can slow a specific car from reaching a specific market, but they can't slow down the underlying engineering knowledge itself. And Western and Japanese automakers still have to design, price, and market their own hybrid and EV lineups directly, against a global benchmark that this platform has now quietly reset, whether or not this exact car ever legally reaches their home market's dealership lots. So here's the full picture, start to finish. BYD built its 5th generation DM hybrid system around a genuinely record-setting 46% thermal efficiency engine and a deeply integrated 7-in-1 powertrain controller, engineering out inefficiencies most competitors still treat as an acceptable cost of doing business. That system delivers a manufacturer-claimed combined range of up to 2,100 kilometers under China's own testing standard, a figure that honest, independent testing under real-world conditions brings down closer to 1,600 kilometers. Still an enormous number by any global comparison, even after accounting for the gap between a laboratory test and an actual highway. BYD then put that entire package into one of its cheapest, highest volume nameplates, rather than a low-volume flagship, selling tens of thousands of units every single month. At price points, most competitors currently can't match with anything close to this level of engineering. What you're actually looking at is the same shift that happened to the camera industry when smartphones first arrived. Not a single flashy new feature, but an entire established category quietly getting priced and engineered out from underneath the companies that assumed they'd always own it, because a competitor simply refused to accept that's just how the market works as a permanent constraint. This sedan isn't dangerous because of what it does on a highway. It's a warning because of what it proves is now possible at a price point that shouldn't have been possible at all. If breakdowns like this, the real engineering and the real numbers behind China's biggest automotive disruptions, are useful to you, hit like and subscribe, because there's more of this coming, including a closer look at what happens the first time a car built on this exact platform actually reaches a Western showroom without a tariff wall standing in the way. So here's the honest question for the comments. Does a 1,600-kilometer real-world range at this price point genuinely change how you'd think about buying a hybrid? Or does the gap between the marketing number and the honest number make you trust the whole category a little less? I read every single one.